third game in a row where I shouldn't say third game in a row. We won 1-0 against Sutton. What am I saying? But we've only scored 2 goals in all of 2023, which is a bit of a concern, and I'll harp on that a little bit more. I'll talk about who I feel needs to improve in terms of chance creation and whatnot, not just in this game but in general, which includes Chislett. I think he's kind of fallen off a little bit. But anyway, 0-0 draw. On paper, it's good because it's against Carlisle, third place. In practice, also good. You thought I was gonna fucking throw a curveball like, but it wasn't a good 0-0. No, it was a good 0-0. I think there were moments in the game where we let Carlisle play their game, especially in like the middle part of the second half where they were knocking around pretty effectively, and the likes of Gunter would be a little too central, would give them some space on the wide area, and then put crosses in, and we'd actually lose on a couple of occasions whenever they did put the crosses in. Notably, Pierce lost out on a couple of heading exchanges to the likes of Feeney, mainly, who would play as a center back but get up the pitch to try to win some headers. But aside from between the 60th, I want to say the 55th to 75th minute where it was pretty much all Carlisle, I think we played decent all around. I couldn't watch the first 20 minutes because there was some technical difficulties on iFollow. But the 20th to 45th minute, I thought both teams played pretty well. The style of football was pretty solid, not lumping the ball up all the time like sometimes you would see in League Two, but possessing it a little bit and then getting to the final third quickly. Playing some 1-2s and whatnot from both sides. It was very impressive to watch, although AFC Wimbledon didn't create any clear-cut chances in that first half. I think the only real clear-cut chance was from Carlisle, who it was like a corner kick near post, flicked on towards goal by, I think it was Huntington, either that or Feeney, and Zanev got up quick, palmed it over, and went over everyone's head. Eventually cleared away. Good reactionary save from Zanev, who also had another really good save in that little spell that I was talking about, 55th to 75th minute. It was toward the latter end of that spell, around the 70th minute, where it was a flick on one by Feeney over Alex Pierce, who I thought had a decent game until that spell where he lost out on a couple of headers. But flick on one by Feeney, first time volley by Guy with the inside of his right foot, actually. It wasn't like a lacer, but it was put with decent amount of pace. Zanev quickly dives to his right, saves it out for a corner kick. Good save from Zanev in that exchange. Let me go back to chronological order. So yeah, first half, not much to talk about, not too many clear-cut chances. In the beginning of the second half, it was pretty even until Carlisle really started to mount some pressure on us. Notably, in that first half, real quick to go back to the first half, we gave the ball away a couple of times, even though we did possess well and bring it to the final third, played with conviction and with pace. There were a couple of times where it looked a little shaky, notably with Pell. One time he tried to play it back to one of our center mids and just a few yards wide of his intended target, which allowed for a bit of a counterattack for Carlisle, but nothing happened in that exchange, thankfully. Pell didn't really have the best game. Gave it away a couple of times. Won a couple of headers, lost a couple of headers. Wasn't really the same Harry Pell that we're used to seeing that wins every header, flicks it on. So he eventually came off. For, I think it was McAteer, like for like substitution, who I thought was pretty decent. Makes good off the ball runs, very quick. But I think the substitute of the game had to be Al-Hamadi. I cannot give this guy enough praise, man. When Al-Hamadi is on the ball, he holds it up. There's one time where he held it up and then waited for the support. Played McAteer with a square through ball, and McAteer played it through to Jana, and Jana was kind of a little too slow to try to think of something to do. He kind of held the ball onto his feet a little bit, thought of what to do, then just took the shot on from like a standing position, and it ended up the shot ended up getting blocked. But he had a good moment a few minutes later. Little kind of played a chip little ball over the pressure of one of the center mids, and then Johnny took a heavy touch past the midfield line, took a couple more touches, and eventually Senior came back and made the challenge. They're right back for a throw-in that exchange. Those are the only moments where Johnny really had like a huge impact. But like I said, Al-Hamadi on that initial moment where he held the ball up and played McAteer, which led to a counter. Another moment where it seemed like it was something out of nothing. Davison laid it off to Al-Hamadi. The ball was kind of bouncing a little bit. Al-Hamadi took a touch heavy forward down the right-hand side, just heavy enough to where he was able to keep it in play. And then he drove across low and hard to Davison, just a tad behind. I think Davison kind of outran the ball slightly. It was kind of a mixture of both. But Al-Hamadi did very good holding the ball up and then creating his own chance. I said early in the stream we struggle to create our own chances. Jai Simi really the only player who was able to do that, who I thought had a very good game until he got subbed off. There was one moment where he held the ball up, spun away from his man, drew the foul. He drew a couple fouls, actually. Another moment where he did a little quick step over, faked going right, then went left, crossed it, was blocked. Jai Simi was pretty strong, and he did pretty well. But yeah, Al-Hamadi can create his own chance. I said he's not the fastest player in the world, but he has a good first touch, can set himself up for a good crossing opportunity. I think for a 21-year-old, I think he's got good football IQ, I think he is not just a very gifted player all around. I can't give enough praise for him. Aside from him and Jai Simi, though, I think Chislett has kind of fallen off a little bit. Whenever he's in the wide area, he tries to... His first instinct is always to try to play it back or to try to cross it, and I think his deliveries... I mean, fair play. If you want to cross it from the wide area, that's fine, but his deliveries were kind of meh today, Chislett. He had another kind of 6 to 7 out of 10 type of performance. But Little played well. Little, got in a couple of challenges. Drove it forward. There were a couple times where he took it himself toward the 18-yard box. I think Woodyard was decent. When he was on the ball, sometimes he's like, okay, what do I do? He tried to take it one way, then the other, and the other then cleared it or played square to somebody. But I think defensively did okay, Woodyard. I think he did enough on the day to really warrant a decent performance, like a 7.5 out of 10. Center backs, again, Pierce lost out on a couple of headers, but other than that, played well in the first half, played well in the later half and the second half. Carlisle did well all around. Gunter at times was out of position. Brown was okay. Yeah, I think Brown did all right. So let me go down the list. Individual performances. Zanev, 7. Did okay. Gunter, 6.5. Carlisle, 8. Pierce, 7. Brown, 7. Woodyard, 7. Little, 8.5. Chislett, 6. Pell, 6. Jai Simi, 8. Davison was quiet, 6.5. Substitutes, Jane, 7. McAteer, 8. Al-Hamadi, 9. And those are my individual performances. Try to keep it short and sweet, that particular analysis. I think it was a good point. It was a good point against Carlisle side, who were fairly decent. I mean, they have that midfield three in Gibson, Guy, and Moxon. Gibson, very good on the ball. Guy can play a good pass through, try to thread a couple through balls in that maybe just ahead of a couple of players on a couple of instances. Moxon gave the ball away a couple of times, but he was strong whenever he got on the challenges and played a couple good balls. That midfield three is good. We did keep Dennis quiet, though. 17 goals in the season, Dennis, but he was quiet today, thankfully, and Garner was also quiet. We did a good job in nullifying their strikers. But they did win a couple of headers. Most of Carlisle's half chances to clear-cut chances came from that second ball, or came from that knockdown from a back post run. And there were maybe a couple of times where they got crosses off and the likes of Gunter or Carlisle would block it out for a corner. Those are really the only chances Carlisle had. I mean, nonetheless, they did have the better clear-cut chances than we did, but I still think it's a good point. Thank you guys for coming along.